So I'm sure you've noticed that some players simply get better results from the training that they're doing than others. And this is one of the most frustrating facts of life as a basketball player when you hustle and grind and outwork everybody else around you, and yet somebody else can do an even smaller amount of training and just take off like a rocket, while you feel as though you're never getting any better no matter what you do. And this used to drive me absolutely crazy as I was growing up playing. So if you're in this position, my heart goes out to you. Like I was totally there as well. And I've got a fun little story for you that I actually made up that will illustrate exactly why this happens. Why do some players get better results from their training than others? And this is the first time I've told this story, so hopefully I can get it right. I call it the three driveways. And so there are three players who all play on the same team and live on the same street, and their driveways are all lined up next to each other. So you can see on any given day these three players doing their training each and every day. The first player we will call the dabbler. And the dabbler is probably the most excited about the act of training. He's got all of these ideas and he's always on YouTube and searching new training methodology and drills and workouts. And he'll rush outside in this excited frenzy onto his driveway and try out this brand new cutting edge training methodology. And then after half an hour, or whatever the case may be, he'll rush back inside and go searching for more training. And so he is really excited about the concept of training, the idea of training, and yet we only see him out on the driveway once every few days because he's so busy thinking about training that he doesn't actually do enough of it. So that's the dabbler. And like I said, he's probably the most excited about training, which is why he's fun to be around. Players like him, they like talking with him. He's always got some new idea to share. And so players like him, but they don't respect him. They don't respect his game because they don't see him actually getting results from any of that talk. And he's always been stuck seventh, eighth man on the team, never really broken through to the player that he wishes he could be. If we move one driveway down, we have what we'll call the hustler. The hustler is about as opposite from the dabbler as it gets. Okay, the hustler is out there like clockwork every single day with this grave, serious look on his face that nobody can disturb. The dabbler wants to come over and chit chat with him and challenge him to one-on-one, and the hustler just waves him off and says, "No, I must do my training." He's got his logbook out. He's meticulously logging all of his sets and reps and every drill that he does, and every moment of his life is just fixated on how can I prove everybody wrong and be the best player in the area, on my team, in the city, whatever. He just simply wants to be the best. And so his attitude is, I must train, and I must train as much as I possibly can. However, he's sort of like the image that comes to mind is he's like a stone. He's hard and cold, and he has one purpose. He sits out there on that driveway and he will not go inside until he is the player that he's always wanted to be. And yet he's stuck. He's stuck and he can't break through from being that third or fourth option on the team. He sees other players who, of course, nobody outworks him. So it frustrates him to see these other guys outplaying him. And for all that training that he does, players respect him. They show the time that he's logging on his game, but they don't really like being around him. He's not all that fun. And they wonder, why is he not a better player for all that training that he's doing? Now, if we move one driveway down, we see the practitioner. And the practitioner shows up every day, and as the name implies, he practices. It is his practice to show up like clockwork every day. However, he does it with joy. He shows up with a big smile on his face and does the practice and the training that he loves to do. And it drives the hustler crazy to see the practitioner go off inside after 60 or 90 minutes and not come back out until the following day. He simply shows up like clockwork every day consistently and does his practice. And not only that, but he does it with a big smile on his face. He's enjoying every last moment. He's not training as hard or as long as the hustler does, but he is loving every last moment of it. And because of this, he's a joy to be around. The dabbler will come over and chit chat with him. They'll play one-on-one. He's always down for a game of pickup. He simply loves being on the court and practicing, right? He's a practitioner. And when game time rolls around, you can see all of that joy. Well, the hustler was more like this hardened stone or rock. The practitioner is like a sponge. He's soaking up every ounce of that training so that it can be squeezed out and expressed during real live games. And so he's almost like a magnet. Players are drawn to him. He's got this joy that makes him charismatic on the floor and magnetic to the ball. The ball is always swung his way. The coach is putting the ball in his hands, calling plays for him, and he's always in the top one or two options on the team. He's what you'd call the star. And as you can imagine, this drives the hustler absolutely crazy, because a player who doesn't work as hard as he does is getting all of the accolades, all of the respect, and all of the improvement that he has always wanted. So which one of these three players do you think will have the best career? Do you think the dabbler will ever break through? Do you think the hustler even? Do you think the time will ever come when that stone turns into a sponge and he finally becomes the player that he's always wanted to be? Or will it be the practitioner? And I think the answer is pretty obvious to all of us. In Deep Game, we call this the law of mastery. So this is the 7th of our 8 laws. And the law of mastery states that the game rewards the player who needs no reward other than the game itself. If we look at the dabbler, his entire mantra, right, is that I will train sometime in the future. I am excited about my training and I will do this training. That's never going to get anywhere because it's always sometime in the future. If we look at the hustler, his mantra is, I must train. I must train. I must do this training. And if we look at so he's expecting the game to reward him with what he wants if he gives all of this hard work and all this effort. Now, the game rewards the player who needs no reward other than the game itself. And so when we go to that third driveway and we see the practitioner, his mantra is, I love to train. I love to train. He simply shows up because he loves it. He loves being out there on the court. And what he has realized is that more than any other variable, more than the training program that you're doing, how perfect you do it, how much you do it, regardless of all of that, the variable that will determine how successful any player is from the training that they're doing is how much they enjoy it. And this is something that we have been brainwashed into forgetting really by society. There's always, and I imagine like if I had been listening to this talk when I was playing in high school, there would be this little voice in my mind saying, well, that can't be true. Like, I'm just going to train more. I'm just going to train more. Like if 90 minutes a day is good, then 6 hours a day must be, 3 times as good or whatever, 4 times as good. And so that was the little voice in my mind that kept urging me to, no, just train more, be more serious, be more serious. If this isn't working, more must be better. And what I realized later on is that that little voice was actually not my own voice. That was the voice of misinformed coaches, of society, of this toxic North American mentality that thinks that more is better and that you must hustle and grind and suffer in order to someday achieve. And yet the real achievement, the real dream is actually showing up and doing the practice itself, doing the training itself, as in the spirit of a true practitioner who practices because they love the act of practicing, the art of practicing. So later on in my career, I finally realized this, and I will tell you that in the final year or two that I played basketball, I actually grew to love the training more than the playing itself. And it was really strange. I almost thought that there was something wrong with that, actually. I was like, well, I just love to train. Like if I could just train full time, that would be perfect. And I went on to create Elite Guard Training, which was a training company, and actually did that full time. And it was quite strange to me that like, how could the training, the act of showing up and being in that flow, that rhythm of the training, like working yourself into a lather over a long period of consistent daily training, how could that be more enjoyable than the act of playing the game? And yet it was, ideally both should be equally as enjoyable. But it was the enjoyment that fueled the results that I got from my training, more so than any new training method, more than how serious I was about that training. It was the act of enjoying it. The enjoyment brought the consistency and that like hyper, the what's the word I'm looking for? That quality of being like a sponge where you're absorbing every ounce of the training deep into your game so that it can be expressed when you're on the court. So that is my wish for you. Realize that most players simply train for the results. They train to get results, and they assume that the more training that they do, the more results they're going to get. That is proven to be wildly inaccurate, wildly inaccurate. And the truth is, the players that get the best results actually show up because they love to train. They love the act of training. They love being in the gym. This is like the truth of being a gym rat, when you just love to, I never really liked that term, by the way, gym rat. It's like, we're not rats here. We are practitioners who show up to do the practice for the love of the practice itself. Okay? So once again, that is my wish for you. Graduate from whether you're a dabbler or a hustler. Graduate to practitioner status and understand that it's not about white knuckling and disciplining yourself to do the work that you think you must do. It's about doing work that you love to do so that you don't have to force yourself to do it, right? Like, show up and do what you love to do in the way that you love to do it. And I promise you, those results will come faster than ever before.